Tadi dari syuati tendi chiro jis. Things that tendi namri chiminan mat shuis. Namri tichigeva.
So today you have asked me to teach. So the topic of today's teaching would be the 12 links of dependent origination, as you have requested. And I will go through the 12 links of dependent origination according to the Lamrim, which is the stages to be get the path to enlightenment.
Tadi tendi seati ten seati judiana temba che. Del sene chumbaro chigi. Judian chumbalo teni chumas. One is the idea significa. Odinsa tensi chungi mendola seati ten seati around to do it. Around to never around to do the tomati timber, Ranshi never Ranshi and Sergei Ranshi around a chip. Chesan tensi chungi mendola seati chungi Ranshi never thinking. Tensi chili timber is loving the timber around to do the career. Isn't tensi chungi mendola seati.
So dependent origination. So the first term, dependent, so which reliance. So we are talking about relying or depending on one's causes. So dependent on one's causes and conditions. And so the dependent word den and del. Del is connection, or and sometimes we refer to it as den del and den jung. Jung is origination, so we might say dependent origination or dependent arising. So in both cases, so when we say den, which is dependent, so when we say something is dependent, it is free from an inherent existence. So there's a quote from Then 주님을 돌아서야 돼. 가르치라.
이 지리 그래서 우리 그래서 안도는 그래서 디첸지 제소 되게 근데 때문에 지금 제버지게
아는 것.
제버지는 대신 주님들로 중시 기된 주야 되는 세. 다지 단위에서 주지 때문에.
So this particular quote is from an Amdo master from the Amdo province of Tibet, and so he said, I think that is Gyumed Rinpoche. So he wrote a praise. So there is a famous book called Praise to the Dependent, praise who taught dependent origin. So to praising, extolling the qualities of the Buddha who teaching dependent origination by Lama Tsongkhapa. So there is a praise to the praise of teaching, preaching dependent origination written by Gyumed Rinpoche. So in that book, it says that through dependence, one is free from having inherent existence. One is free from having, when abandons the faults of the two extreme. The first extreme of having an inherent existence is freed by having something dependent.
That is and
Please mute your phone.
So having an inherent existence or inherent nature. So when you talk about inherence, we are talking about intrinsic existence or something intrinsically. And so when we say the first of the two words, dependent origin, dependent. When you say something is dependent, one is freed from the extremities of having an inherent existence. So inherent existence, we're talking about having something having an intrinsic nature of anything. So there are two types of nature. One is nature as in the fire being hot and the water being cool. That is the nature of reality, in a sense, conventional reality. So this does exist. So the fire, the very nature of fire being hot, this does exist. But the nature of the intrinsic nature of the fire existing without depending on anything, that does not exist. So when we say dependent, we are freeing ourselves from, we are freeing our views from having ourselves from having an intrinsic, the extreme views of inherent existence. Because when one relies or depends on something, one is no longer independent. One is no longer independent, and when one is interdependent, one is no longer independent, and so therefore one is freed from inherent existence.
Tene Jumaris, Tene Yubaris, Tende Sinata, Tene Yubaris, Tene Jumaris, Ni Yetati, Shetaticas, Kagiri, Jasan, what did it?
So when we say there is no inherent existence or intrinsic nature of anything, are we talking about there being no nature at all? So nothing exists naturally or nothing exists essentially? No, we're not talking about that, because in the second line to the praise to the one who, the praise to the so the walk by in the walk by the Amdo Master, he says specifically, so there's two lines. The first one says, because one is dependent, because it is dependent, one is freed from having an inherent existence. And the second line runs that because it originates, because it arises, so therefore it does, so it is coherent with the world, which means one is free from the nihilistic views. So when we say, so the true extreme of having an inherent existence and the extreme of the nihilistic views that nothing exists essentially. So both are free. When we say dependent, one is free from the upper extreme, and when we say originating or arising, one is free from the shackles of nihilistic views. So the second line runs that when with origination, one is free, one is in coherence, coexist with the world. With arising, with origination, one coexists with the world.
That is tended said, tended said, tended said, tended to the Shigali Chabit tended the Jason tended said, you let in the Jib, you generate in Chuna said, tended it to the Shidal Kalimari, Jason Jetamata, Dotiba Nigi, tended Kalimati. Juletene, Devu Juna said, identity killing it. She Chashel in people said, Dobe Pata Zamji Dendisiati killing him every.
So the dependent arising, then Del is dependent arising, then the Jung is dependent origination. So both are, the synonyms for one thing. So dependent arising, this dependent arising or dependent origination we are talking about today is something that is accepted by all the four schools of the Buddha, all the four Buddhist schools. And this particular dependent origination is accepted by the Vaibhashikas and the Suttantikas, the first of the first two, the lower school of the Buddhist tenets. And so this particular dependent origination, we are talking about causes and conditions, or cause and effect, that all the effects, all the results depends on a cause to arise. So that kind of dependent origination, that kind of dependent arising is accepted by both the Suttantikas and the Vaibhashikas. And so the part of the type of dependent origination, so there is two types of dependent origination, the coarser and the subtle. So this type of coarser type of dependent origination is accepted by both. And the dependent upon one's parts, as well as dependent upon one's a mental factor to label or recognize as something merely labeled as a phenomena, that type of dependent origination is not accepted by the two lower schools.
Well, that the instant that the Del said the Chumbala said, Sepiati, Chitan Done Sumbi. Done, you are American Lechuna said it. You are said it. Unjula Sobia, Lo Yoatani. lo yo ang tanich chung mai ba sia di yo me be kin le chung se yo ase ta ti unju ba nam ji ji ting ne lo kang lo unju le yo atan yo ang tanich ya ri ta ti ne shin ne yi shu de ji ne yi shu de ti ne yi shu lo ye yo atan yo ye kin le chung ati kering ne unju ba ina chanju ba ina wa di ta ti yo me be kin le chung se ti ji de me da be kin le chung se je de da ba le ji wa ji ba da ba le ji wa du ye xin da zhang jin ba du shi ji zu le da ti yang wen ju da be kin le ba di ji da me be kin le chung se de du je se de ne da me da ba kang lo yin je le le den ju de ra ran ge de jing gu be se na ti ke tu ma ye tu ba ju ko ye tu be ju la se me be kin le chung se这张真这些的，听不了，听不了就是他听不起，这些的，我的切都的，那点这些的，听不起个个这些就当这个的，听不了起，我的些的这上。这些的听不了，些的是个的听不了。
So we talked about the second line of the Amda Master, which says, because it arises, therefore it coexists with the world. So the coexistence here, the arising or the origination or arising or origination that we are talking about. This is not something made up by it is something not made up just by the master, or it's a newly made thing. It was actually taught. It can be sourced back to the Buddha's teaching. In the sutra itself, the Buddha talks about 3 types of arising. So Buddha talks about which is a cause that is unsteered. So steer here we are talking about a steer. So because we are talking about the Vedanta philosophies of the in India of the time. So steered by the thought or intention of Shiva to create the world. So in the Hinduism or in the non-Buddhist theologies, it is accepted that all the the world is formed through the intention of Shiva. So when we say not steered, a cause that is unsteered, we are talking about a cause that is not steered by the intention of Shiva. So if, in other words, we are talking about the creator God here. So this can be applied in the Christian theology as is being created by the God, creation of the God. So if it is created by the God, then this does not become a coherent existence or coherent or coexisting or coherent arising. And another thing is arising through an impermanent, permanent cause. So a permanent cause, a permanent phenomenon cannot cause something to be created. A thing that is impermanent cannot create a thing. For an impermanent thing to rise, one needs an impermanent cause as well. And the last is that does all impermanent phenomena bring forth, or can cause any type of phenomena? It does not. For one impermanent effect or result to arise, one need to have a coherent cause. So only a coherent cause can bring forth a coherent or a result. So not all impermanent phenomena can generate another impermanent phenomena. It has to be created by an coherent cause. So only coherent cause can bring a coherent result. So therefore, this has been taught by the Buddha. So when he talked about the creation or the how a certain phenomena is being created. So only a coherent cause can bring forth a coherent result.
내기 사변에 내기 부인구를 비슈지 거인의 누구다 대기 누구를 용기양을 봐 어디 선택다 춤바시아 되지 니베견에서 니바시아 되 규딜라 진짜기 이게 부티다 긴구는 버치 이거를 지시게 봐 어디에서 맨날 Let me give a chess on a Dylan Jabba, you young never never. Just that to be to let you answer, new begin let you answer to make get you answer. Or the answer. I didn't want to do what you didn't just did.
Yeah, something I missed earlier. So the first, so there is the unsteered cause, there's impermanent cause, and there's the potential cause. So the first two are invalid. The third one, potential cause, only a potential cause can bring forth a result. And for that to happen, it has to be coherent with, so the result has to be coherent with the cause. In that sense, so we all desire happiness and we all want to do away with suffering or unhappiness. And in order to do that, one cannot bring happiness merely if one acts if one engages in negative actions, one will not attain happiness. And in order to bring happiness, in order to gain happiness, one needs to practice the virtuous deeds and avoid the non-virtuous deed. And by only doing so, one will be able to bring, by accumulating a coherent cause, one will be able to bring a coherent result. So if you want happiness, then you need to bring, if you want happiness, you need to accumulate the cause to happiness, which is in coherence with the result or the goal that you are seeking, which was activities.
Dine ta tenje yana chungi ti she goya di karare sen jidan koala ni chungi de cheto koala tande gulu de cheto ani tenje yana chungi kone samya di ni ta nyendu undu jena dunge da kunju ani kunju ta dunge ni ta kunju Samne. Ani in Tandu Logia, the dying to go to Jenny, Dinshi Lamdu Jikone. Samyati, Yendu on to Jenny. And the Rangi on to Jenna, that then the Yana Juni Gone. Ani Koajo to Rimbati Samne. Ani Karasure, Tandu Logia. The that is so Chijun Chitty Mishujita. Denshi Dendi Yana Juni to Gone some in December. Duneta Kunjum Ki Samjuti Legia Yata Hine, the Ranget to the Dendi Kone Yana Juni Kone Kola Tandu Giati. You get the tablet so bad. You do it in a Dinshi London. In that, quite you want to Jenna. To make them but a punch of them, but there were this Sunday. Kuala Inju get it, 지리야리 제선은 덴디 연락 중이 디 상부야 되다 인중으로 기억하지 그거는 인중으로 디 인중으로 기억하다 갈 거였으니 그에 동네 상부야 그에 동네 말씀은 인중으로 기억하면 제가 그에 동네 상에 아니지 그에 동네 인중이 네 타버팅이 그렇지 기계야 봐 어디에서 문제지 덴데 연락 중이지 덴데 연락 중이 그거는 그거 굳이 시에고야 다는 만약에 시에고야 돼 인중 상비기야지 인중 상비기야 그래서 그래요 랑탐제기 자와렵지 그래 인중 상바세야 돼 아니 어디 뒤에서다기 개침부인 거예요.
So in order to get rid of suffering, in order to get out of samsara, one needs to generate, one needs to create, one needs to generate renunciation. And in order to get a sound understanding, sound experience of renunciation, the Buddha taught the dependent origination. So there's the main purpose of Buddha teaching the 12 limbs of dependent origination is to kindle renunciation amongst us. So in order to kindle the renunciation, for the Shravakas, Buddha taught the teaching or the sutra or the teaching of the Four Noble Truths. So the Shravakas, renunciation is kindled among the Shravakas by learning, studying, meditating on the Four Noble Truths, especially the first two, the suffering and its causes. And for the Pratyeka Buddhas, the self-realized Buddhas, so for them, the focal point of their studies is the 12 links of dependent origination. And even though, in summary, when we study the 12 links of dependent origination, we touch upon the subject of the Four Noble Truths. So it's merely a matter of emphasizing. So the Shravakas emphasize more on the Four Noble Truths, the first two Noble Truths itself, and the Pratyeka Buddhas, the self-realized Buddhas, they emphasize more upon the subject of dependent origination. In any case, as I mentioned earlier, the main purpose of studying the Buddha teaching, the 12 links of dependent origination, is to kindle renunciation within us. And renunciation is the root of all the Dharma path.
아니 지금 군조로서 왔다비었던 지금 추 상발의 지금부터가 기부자바 시다인지 기이는 최고로 파 가부도가 어디에서는 강의 지체인도 군조되어서 추진하면서 지야를 봐. 이에서는 최근 준비 물론 중요하게 되려는다. 탑시디 그에 등에 상해야 돼. 그에 담은 그 등에 상구해야 돼. 그에 등에 담보 등에 상구해야 돼. 등에 상수는 치마라 치레치라 강에 매버지는 게 단도 동에 마선 아니 치와는 먼저 주변에 없었더니 강에 만붙이트려 단도 동에서 야부치 삼수는 주지야 물론 우리 주지야 물론 중수 그 치마는 민족의 친구를 봐 이메일제 단도 그래서 우리 단도 어디에 재산다는지 그의 동네 삼고야 돼. 그의 동네 삼은 철은 주배 로당 스직제 장주 수자 중앙당. 근데 장주 기부 중의 장주에는 예술의 동네 집에 아니 집어주고야. 기분 진다 중의 장도시에 되니 그의 동네 집에 나중에 기부 진도 장도에는 senje 탐지의 동네 전부 인지 친구 주고 그래. 인지 친구 개발은 인주면은 왜 그래? 아니 인주디 라나 카츠는 인주시야. 랑도 디네스 민음도 양미민 신기도 가르쳐주세요. 랑이 코알의 인중에 들이 탄주 보면은 선제시 동네에 동인이 지속해서야 말이죠. 세상 티베트인데 장주라는 인지 잡아지고 그래. 어디에서 세상 장주 로슈가 어디야? 당인주를 투. 다 내준대를 이지게봐. 이야. 당인주를 투. 니 내준대라. 니 동행에 메드발 동행에 메드벨로. 대원 주변로 치아르바. 대원은 이 주계와를 놓고 또 하고 동행민들은 주 메가와트 방구도 선서지니 니 레준들이 로제와 하세요. 천대를 통하라요. 다 구해 동행 상 코알라 교시 중 심젤라 잠바 인지 다디 장주가 생각서 다디 진주나나 시야 동해 인데니스 동해기 인데들라 나이는 지수녀 교회 대파세와지 코아발은 인지기스 딜라 인지게라가스 제네 아니 어디 동해기 인데데 그의 동해기 상대 인데들 뒤에 네 딜라 인지게라가스 하게 ini 교회 대파세와지 동해 삼수나 나베 시비에 삼바르지다 지 이행이 돼야지요. 이행이 나게 지야로 나게 두수자야 근데 아니 코아발은 인지께서나 인지께 란라반네 란이 동네빈나 지디야 버치sam인데 이 시에 동네빈나라 무슨 인지인 거야. 제가 코아발은 인지께서 어디에서 나지 된디야나 중요하네. 상고야지 그의 동네 시를 치도록 어디 그의 동네 시는 개전되게 해야 되겠어요.
So from the book, in the book it says that by reflecting on the sufferings, by reflecting on the suffering to kindle generate renunciation. And so there is a lot of benefits in reflecting upon suffering. It's essential that we reflect upon suffering now. We reflect on the sufferings of samsara at this very moment. If we prepare ourselves by reflecting upon the sufferings, the faults of samsaric existence now, then at the time of death, one will have ease of moment. One will be able to die peacefully. One is prepared at the time of death, and so there is no fear and no regret at the time of death. So if you do not reflect upon the faults and the suffering of samsara now, then at the last moment when it actually comes, then it's too late, and then there's nothing we can do. So in the book, in the sutra, in the book, it says, so there is a 4 classification, or the benefits of reflecting upon suffering. The first one is, if you reflect upon suffering, all the difficulties that we face in the life, if we reflect upon that, then we will lean towards or engage into dharmic activities, virtuous activities. And the second is that we will be encouraged to take refuge in the Triple Gem. We will be encouraged to take refuge. So there is the small scope, middle scope, and the great scope of individuals. In order to be freed from samsara, according to the small scope of individuals, one needs to think upon the suffering of the lower realms, like hell being and the animal being and like that. So when one reflects upon that, one is really scared of going through such an ordeal, and one wants to be liberated, and therefore take its refuge in the Triple Gem. And for the middle scope, one is to think about the faults of samsaric existence in general. And for the great scope of individuals, one is actually motivated by compassion for all sentient beings that actually kindles the taking refuge into the Triple Gem. So for the great scope, even though it's not directly, it may seem it is not directly generated by renunciation itself, or renunciation, or reflecting upon samsaric faults, but the refuge of the great scope, refuge for the individuals of great abilities and capabilities, for them, the refuge is actually kindled by compassion, and compassion is actually the other face of the same coin. So the renunciation and compassion are the two faces of one coin, and when it is reflected on oneself, that is renunciation. When it is faced toward others, it is compassion. So therefore, compassion is what kindles, what encourages a person of great scope of mindset to take refuge in the Triple Gem. And compassion is generated, or is the other phase of renunciation. Renunciation, of course, comes from reflecting upon suffering and all the difficulties and challenges that we face in samsara. So the second one is taking refuge, and the third one is karma. So when we when we reflect upon the faults of samsara, when we reflect upon the suffering that we go through, then we will be wiser in our decision making, or our action of what to do and what not to do. Therefore, karma. So we will be generating more positive karmas, and refraining, shying away from committing negative karmas. And the fourth one is letting go of attachment to this life. When we are attached to this life, then we do all sorts of things to keep to this life intact, and by doing so, we neglect the longer future, or the future, the distant future of our next lives, which is much more in number than the current life itself. And also the benefit of reflecting on some suffering is also spoken in Acharya Shantideva's Bodhisattva, the act of the Bodhisattva, the ways of the Bodhisattva by Shantideva. So he says, by reflecting upon the sufferings of samsara, one will shy from engaging in negative activities. One will be excited to engage in dharmic and virtuous activities, and one will be freed from the suffering of illusory views. So here, illusory or illusion, we are talking about the illusion. This here refers to the illusion of an ego. So when we have an egotistic view of oneself, then one creates, makes lionizing oneself. So which is an illusion that brings forth a lot of problems. And then one will also be, and not just that, one will also be able to generate compassion for all the sentient beings that is suffering in the samsara. So the benefits are, these are the benefits of reflecting upon suffering of samsara existence.
That's yala chungi yala giwa seti. That's yala chungi the chungi seti. Tambu mariba seti. Yala tambu mariba seti. The carrier sentanji shazungi ranching seti. Then seti then she chungi mendola sesuna. Ranching yuban zimba. Naran Shingi Yubanzimba de Kansal Tanzis. Nature Tanzini Yari, Tangular Regina, Kurazawatilla, Chiki Tanzi, the Kansal Tanzi. Tada and Yuban Jiti, Kurazawati, Kansal Tanzi, Mishu Chiki Tanzi, Kurazawat Shalmi. That Tanguban Chiki Tanzi, the Kansal Tanzi, Yaman Debaraba. Nani Kuretawati, the Chiki Tanzi, the Kansal Tanzi, Kasha. That's the carrier. Kansal and Shiki to Banzim Batilla, Kansal Tanzis, Cancellation Bechu, Kumbula Sopatos, Rashi to Banzim Batilla. And a Chiki Tanzi is here. Or Tiniga, Maribasiati, or the Yala Tambu Mariba Sati, Mariba Sinshir Tishana. Then never do Jigi Lady. Any going to Jube, Kansal Tanzi, the Chiki Tanzis, never did Yala Tambu Mariba Sati.
So now we come to the 12 links of Tibetan origination, and the first of which is ignorance. So ignorance, as we covered earlier, when one perceives things, any phenomena of having an inherent existence, that is known as that sort of self-grasping, that sort of perception is actually ignorance. And so within ignorance, there's the self-grasping of the individual, or the self-grasping of the individual, and the self-grasping of the other phenomena. So the self-grasping of the individual is that when one perceives that the person, the individual, does of having the individual as of having an inherent existence, the individual existing intrinsically without depending upon any other factors, that is known as the self-grasping of the individual, of the person, self-grasping of the person. And any other form of self-grasping. So by self, we are talking about an automated existence of any phenomena. So a phenomena not having not to rely on any other factors to exist. So self-existing phenomena. So in that sense, the self-grasping, there are two: the individual self-grasping of the person or individual, Khensur, and the self-grasping of the Gyumed, or the phenomena other than the person. So when we grasp, when we have the grasping, when we have the perception of phenomena other than the person having an intrinsic existence, inherent existence, that is known as the self-grasping of the other phenomena. And according to the Prasangika Madhyamikas, which is the highest of all the Buddhist, within the Madhyamikas, which is of the four tenets of the Buddha Dharma, within the Madhyamika, there is the four tenets of the Buddha Dharma, among which the Madhyamika is the topmost. And within the Madhyamika, there are two. And the Prasangika Madhyamikas is the supreme, or the top of the Madhyamikas. And according to the Madhyamikas, the Prasangika Madhyamikas, the self-grasping of the individual or the person is regarded as the root of cyclic existence. But according to the lower schools of thought, according to the Prasangika Madhyamika, both types of the self-grasping of the individual, as well as the self-grasping of other phenomena, are both regarded as the root of all, the root of cyclic existence. But the lower schools of Buddha's teaching, tenets, even within Madhyamika, they do not accept as such. So they, the tenets other than the Prasangika Madhyamika, they vouch that only the grasping of self-grasping of the individual is the root cause, the root of cyclic existence. And so the ignorance here is the self-grasping, the two types of self-grasping, which motivates the second of the 12 dependent links, which is the immature karma, or the factoring karma. So the self-grasping that actually brings forth, or is crucial in bringing forth, motivating the factoring karma, or the immature karma, the second of the 12 dependent links, is known as the ignorance here.
Jimbala sobalan jusun, kireles. Seati kunanti. Dini, Lunavi Mikewa Sumyarba, Navi Mikewa Shiarba. What in this cherryna? Ani Mikele Sasi. In the third, Niba Dujiletla, Nentu Pinji Dujilegiari, Nentu Pinji Dujilegiari. What is a the condition which is in Ma Seati Naya Pujibu, not to name it, but the Tewa Japan, teach it to give out the juice. Quite Gigi Gure, that it tend to the Lamico and Tochi to really. The Nasia di Maripati Kunelandi. Dini Gigi. Miguel Jason, Pinjiles, Dini, Dentro Pinjiles, Jason, never Digiles at it, Digiles at it, Niantu Chili, never shiny cherry. Pins, never Digiles at it, Pinjiles at it, Pinjis at it. Dentro na minha pumbo durante tinha que niente pumbo na minha pumbo durante tinha que era até chega até sentar e bater de igreja e bater de igreja de sete de igreja ele mambo ya lunane temba ya lunane matumba ya lunane matumba de ni Khensur Manandus Gyumed Martinez some Mabatangerba Chichi Junas Chichi Junas Chichi Junas and some of the Mabatangerba this less of Yerchida cool. Lunan train Amadi less of Yer somebody see it, somebody see it. What did it? What is a tongue do? Less do set less at it. Chidan, you money to even some of them about Mambutanson, laying Bassani. Some look some of Mambutanson, I say a thing and the Quinland. Some look some book at the Tanson, qua Pinji Durapsia, qua Dutis, Pinji Durapsia. Creator to be it. Or the inside that Maribakuni less said Na Shiva deep Quinanandi, Gaming with Java Karusi, Josun, the less as it. Nasiati, Naran Shin to the Cherva, Naran Shin to the Quinanandi. Nasiati, the gaming with Java Josun, the less as it.
So the second, which is the karma. So this is we're talking about the immature karma, factoring karma, or more literally compounding karma. So the karma here is anything that is actually evoked by the earlier explained ignorance, the ignorance of self-grasping ignorance, the self-grasping attitude of the self-grasping attitude that the self, the individual, the person exists without depending on any other factors. That the self exists, the individual exists by itself and inherently. So that's self-grasping attitude. So any physical or vocal activities that is actually that is evoked by the self-grasping attitude, the ignorance, that is known as the karma. The karma, in this case, the factoring karma, the immature karma, or the compounding karma. So, in all, so this can bring forth any action that has been committed or that has been performed through this through the motivation of this ignorance. That ignorance is known as the karma, and this can be by implanting in order to do something, in order to help, in order to do something for that particular self, the self-grasping. So that particular individual, that particular self, in order to do something for that, particular self, one engages in virtuous activities, or one engages in non-virtuous activities. by engaging in rituals activities, one will have a higher rebirth, or be able to enjoy happiness in the future. By engaging in non-rituals activities, one will have a lower rebirth in the lower realms, or might have to face negative consequences. Both are which, all in all, bringing result or effects within the samsaric realm. So good things in samsara, bad things in samsara. So you're not out of samsara. So any actions that is committed through manipulation or motivation of the self-grasping attitude, so that is known as the karma, the compounding karma, or the immature karma. And this can be regarded, this can be seen this can be classified into manifesting and non-manifesting as well. So manifesting in the sense when one actually engages in, let's say, killing someone or doing something negative, or non-manifesting in the sense one plans or thinks of killing somebody, or manifesting an evil thought itself is a negative action. Even though it may not be manifest, it may not have manifested, it still is karma. So karma does not necessarily have to be manifesting.
That's the penji lesati, tingi, kulatingi, yena, Jeboti to me, Tindiji, penji sigare, pena, ma sabinti yapuchi tapsuna. 아니 shumai genchulu tsona lingu digreba otine chukubere sabi tati sabi la gön yunyer bachina ku genchulu tene nami debuti tutu yamarba tatande ti penji lesenti kubun bati chi silingi genrebti chesuna Nami deputy needs to bring it to the children. The pinching less. The parallel gains in that June. Maran to shout them of the pina. Make it easy, pinching less of the genius, so pinching less and the young gain she shout them la sopati, and you put up Sheila soap in the chest on it. Could the deputy game of a super. Dini ko sini bati chunasuna, tako jodi sini bati chunasuna debati chunirchi. Tako ti jumsadi sini bati so tabia marba. Odi yasa tadi yi level ni bati jumambu. Gashet le ti sani ji shaudum ti chinje tinde meche samne. Chesuna Dandu Nichi. Odi, Marandu Yiga Samna Time to the Samna, but in the dance on the Tati. Samna Chukanetati, Choyamari, Chomindu, Ganechita, and the Ser, Yamani, Tangi Kingi, Tati, some sort of Jerry, Niku, Yiki Shasune, and Tibetan to Yintini. Yesanita, then gain do not tell some people to chat to you. Oh, dear, somebody city, you not doing to give it a symbol of Jerva. So you can look symbol of Gina, still somebody else here. Oh, that is Nandi less sadly, and Gashila, and that. Using Jin, down to the Gashilian, any Miss Sungitan to Shakuya, needed to Kansachi to Shani, down to meeting. Or the Jason and Gersim get the Yapun, Gersim Kina, Nitipati Yapta to Yari. Jason and Gersim get Tachi The nature mason, nature hamagon, using Gitashi Marva. Could you begin nay in the Hago? Medieval but the medieval but Hagos and using Gia in a dark. But that day, you but did you less at it? Seeing is so that the years sooner. And in a negative. Near to near then to the American to the painting less. Get chosen. You must over see painting later.
So the second the immature karma, the projecting karma, it is also regarded as the projecting karma, referred to as projecting karma. So what constitutes a projecting karma? A projecting karma is, in other words, a potential karma, which basically means when the result of that karma can be formed when the karma is potent, when the karma is compounded, does have all the conditionings of the different factors that it needs to bring forth the result. So there are different types of karmas. Some can bring forth a result and some cannot. So a potential karma or a projecting karma is a potential karma in the sense that it is potent. It has the potential to bring forth a result. And some karmas are not potent in the sense that, for the example given was if you have a broken seed or a seed that is that's a seed that is a harmed seed, a seed that cannot bring forth a plant. Even if you add water and any fertilizers and anything, this will not bring you the plant that you desire, because the seed itself is broken. The seed itself is rotten or broken. Just like that, if the potential, the karma itself is broken, here when we say broken, we are referring to the sense of not having the conditional factors, the conditioning factors of the eighth and the ninth branch of the dependent arising, which is the initial desire and the strong desire, otherwise known as attachment and craving. So when these two factors, the eighth and the 7 and the 8 factors, 8 and the 9 factors, the 8 and the 9 links were not present, then the karma which you have accumulated cannot bring forth the desired result, the result it is supposed to bring. In that case, it is not a potent karma, it's not a potential karma, and therefore it is not a projecting karma. And in that sense, so this is not the second link of the dependent origination. And within the karma, within the realm of karma, there is, there are karmas which are weak, and there are those which are strong. One might say the manifesting karmas are stronger and the non-manifesting are weaker, in the sense that when you have a non-manifesting karma, so when you have the evil thought of committing a sinful act, then, for example, killing somebody, then you reflect upon the consequence of going through such an act, what the consequences that it will bring. So you reflect upon that, and you now start to refrain from doing actually acting upon it. And then you also think of all the faults of doing such thing, and then you repent and you confess. By repenting, by not by seeing the fault of doing something, such an aggressive act, and then you stop thinking of such a negative thought, then immediately that negative karma, that non-manifesting negative karma, is subdued. It is cleansed. But the manifesting karma, the stronger version of the stronger karmas, that has to be confessed either in front of the triple gem or some a person, or you have to repent. There has to be strong repentance to purify, to cleanse strong karma, or manifesting karma. But for the non-manifesting karma, which is a weaker version of it's a weaker type of karma, that can actually be cleansed, that can actually be nullified by stopping and by not engaging in such karmic activities. The weaker karmas can be nullified by not engaging in such karmic activities. Third one. Consciousness.
Sumba namshi tendis, ta namshi tendis ati, YouTube namshi isina, ani di le sasagi, neba shasagi namshi tila, sumba namshi, YouTube namshi isiri, mari bukuni le sagdaba, sani, keji neba lako, neba montu yerba, neba shasati, namshi tila, namshi tendis che.
So the consciousness here, this consciousness is also known as the causal consciousness, the consciousness from the cause part, the causal consciousness. And the causal consciousness is actually the place, it's the site, you might say, where one places the seed of one implants the seed of the karmic activities. So when one went through manipulation of self-grasping attitude, the ignorance, one commits, one engages in an activity, one engages in a karma, one engages in an action. In the immediate next moment, that action transforms into a potential, and that potential or seed or imprint, an imprint. So that imprint is actually implanted is planted upon maybe, right? Planted upon the stream of consciousness, and this consciousness is known as the causal consciousness, and it plays as the site for the placement of the imprint of the action, which is caused by the ignorance. So the consciousness here, so we talk about the 6 consciousnesses. We have the 5 senses, and the 6th sense, which is the mind, or the consciousness itself, the mind. So each of the 5 senses, the ear, the eyes, the nose, so they all have a consciousness, the eye consciousness, the ear consciousness, and so on and so forth. So we're not referring to these type of consciousness here. We are referring to the 6th consciousness, or the consciousness of the mind. And the other consciousness are regarded as the doorway to imprints.
That is Namshidi, that Namshidi, Lady Baja Kushi, the Shadi, Nigga Baja Kushis. Thank you very much. Thank you, Baja Kushi, to Natam the Shari. Natam. The nigga Baja Kushi, Yigina Bashapati Shabarba, Jasan, Kitubinam Shizin, the nigga Baja Kushi, Yigina Bashapati, Namshis Trubina, Yigina Bashapati Shab.
Sorry. So the five consciousness, the consciousness of the sensory consciousness, they are not regarded as so they are not the doorway of imprint. The sixth consciousness, the causal consciousness here, is regarded as the doorway of placing imprint, as we discussed earlier. And this is in accordance with the tenets other than the Prasangika Madhyamika. In the Prasangika, this is the depository of the imprints in the temporary manner. The permanent depository of the so all the tenets other than the Prasangika Madhyamika accept this as the causal consciousness as the permanent site depository for the imprints. But in the Prasangika Madhyamika, this is regarded as the temporary depository, not the permanent depository. The permanent depository site for placement of imprint is called Murli I, Murli B.
That is Semzambata Kunshinam Shitisharva, Tatiku, Lunati Sani, Ku Gemegi Niga Bajakushi, Shatu. Then the negative Siati, Ji Namshi the Benekire. Gire Baja Shasati does Chitan Namshiti, the niggas Namshiti, government to do the niggas Chache. Gire Lesadu, the nigga Namshiti, Kavarachina, the Gire Lady, Namshiti, the Shachu Yerba. In Lunati, Shachu Yerba. Takuti. Gere namshi shasati Miguel Jusunati Miguel namshi the Gere namshi ne tu never. Mariasa the Semzim the Shakuyatita Dengi Bajagushiti Nazam Shakuyat Nazam Kubra Lumatirva the Shakuyati Jasa Nekab the Chetine. Tene Karisure Namshi Dilatene, any Chimani in some Jalaniki Namshiti, then Judu Namshi Sig. Then she Judu Namshi Dilatene, any Chimani in some Jalaniki Namshi Jerva, Dilan Judu Namshi Sig. Namshit Niva, Judu Namshit and Judu Namshi.
So in the mind-only school of thought, there is we talk about eight type of consciousness, of the eighth of which is known as the basis of all the consciousness, the basis of all consciousness. So in the mind-only school, the basis of all consciousness is the permanent depository of placing imprints, of positive and negative activities. And in the Prasangika, as I mentioned earlier, is the merely I. So merely I and both the basis of all consciousness, also known as alaya in Sanskrit. So these are both they are both neutral, neither virtuous, non-virtuous. So it has to be placed on a neutral ground. The imprint of because the thing is when one commits a negative action and the general consciousness, the consciousness one has is in a positive mood or in a positive mode, then the negative the imprints of a negative action cannot be placed on a positive consciousness. So therefore, in the Prasangika Madhyamika, as well as the mind-only school of thought, they state that the depository of the depository for the imprints of any activities action has to be non-virtuous, neutral. It has to be neutral. So therefore, it can only be the merely I or the alaya, the eighth consciousness in the mind-only school. and the merely I is the label being the merely labeled as I. So that understanding. So the I, the self, does not exist, doesn't have an inherent existence of its own. It's merely labeled as me. I am merely labeled as me. So that understanding, merely I, merely me, that is the basis of all actions. The depository of all the imprints, either positive or negative. And now this brings force to the resultant consciousness. So the resultant, the causal consciousness is what we are talking about right now. And through when the imprints are placed on the causal consciousness, and through in a matter of time, that the imprints, the potential. So imprint is in imprints are none other than potentials. So the potential, when it rises one day, when it matures one day, in the form, especially in the form of birth, at the time of one's birth, when there is a consciousness rising at the time of birth, that consciousness is known as the resultant consciousness. The consciousness that rises at the time of birth, which is actually the effect or the result of the causal condition in many lives. So that is known as the resultant consciousness.
Data Mingsu Dendesiati, that means Siati, Mingsi Pungu Siati, so the number shivers here, but Mingsi Pungu Siati. Ani Nega Merumi Bula Soba Nego Nayarva, Telasuji Pungu Siati. That the Mingsu Jiribas in the Tasumina the Suki Sapin Yari, Misha Sugi Amari, that's Suki Sapin years. Nia Sumina Susa Jayasuna Ku Suki Sapin Yari, the Sumina Yari, the Su Nasumaria Sani, Minsu Jiribasiati, Mingi Nan Tendi Diari, Suki Tendi Mary. Yes, Minsu Jiribasina.
So the fourth link is name and form, or sometimes referred to as name or form. So name here refers to the name here refers to the four. So we the five aggregates, right? So the name refers to all the other aggregates, other than form itself. So feeling or sensation or perception and mental formation and consciousness. So these four are regarded as name, and so the form itself is called the form. And so the reason we refer to them as name or form or name and form. So in the, so there are three realms: desire realm, form realm, and the formless realm. In the formless realm, there are the potential, the potency of form is there in the potential in the formless realm, because when one dies from the formless realm, one can be reborn in the form realm. So the seed, the potency, the potential of the potential of form is there even in the formless realm, but there is no form in the formless realm. So the potential to arise, create, generate a form is there in the formless realm, but the form itself is not there in the formless realm. So therefore, one cannot say, one has to use either form or name or form rather than name and form. So in the of the three realms, in the realms other than the formless realm, one can use name and form. In the formless realm, it is name or form.
That is it. Then
so this is the brief summarization of the 12 dependent links. So you can ask questions if you have. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Rinpoche, thank you.
Yeah.
Just taking this teaching, some of the parts of the teaching. One of the parts of the teaching is that things exist due to causes and conditions, like the fire. But those causes and conditions, we're talking about nihilism. Nihilism meaning nothing really matters, okay? But things matter because of conventional reality, because we all are kind of related, even though ultimately, in the two truths, one of the truths is we don't really ultimately exist. The other truth is that we exist due to causes and conditions. So because of that, we have compassion, because we exist conventionally. The factors don't exist. The factors that make things are empty. The factors that make things are also empty. So the ultimate truth is that there is a void. What I'm saying is, in that void, did everything, this is just like a hypothetical, there must have been a mind stream that was, there must have been some kind of a mind that always existed, like an original, like not one mind, but all minds, all mind streams must have always existed. Because even if they existed ultimately empty, something had to come about. So in that sense, we're all related, and that's the ultimate thing of compassion. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. You can explain that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Samjita Tana translation. And Chodamji Rashing Matuba radio was, and Rashing Tuba Tana Mess, then a mere Sigur Maras, and then a never mind, you're in a Rashing Tuba, Rashing Matuba Sonsa, Tadamjita, Tuba, Yoresta, Yoga Sonsa, the name, but it is of a charge, you're an Punia, so the number of now extension of the music gaps for the teacher who is, and the invitation of someone Churchine, and then Rashing Tuba Marista, crying it on a I when you dream about the Tenemeva, show you a day in a Tenemeva lemon glass, in Meva Sonsa, and some much to the Jampa to Chachina take those stuff, or the English of a cable those, and a digital Chachina should take to sell situation. And the Deans are Chidane, show the machine Matuba, the lamb, the Koran division. Some Luchova, top of the pet machine to solution, and was a charisma. Topaji, the Topas is an Asai, Charabaji, the Topamasha. Jinan, Topaji, Yogos, the Mena, Sama Junsa, Poras, Sama, you can talk to the such for us. The Tope, no Yota, Cheve, Kinky, and Should was. The Topadoji, Kitchen upon the Mena, kind of some was.
Toba Yari, Toba Messi, you say, Toba Nase, should come to years here. Then, Ranshi Messi, Ranshi, Tanji Lapsuna, Rawan to Tupshava, Sutuk to Tupshava. Ranshi Tani Gyumed, Shana Java Mebais, Ranshi Seati, German Maiba, Shana Metobach, Tukubiaris, Ranshing the Tupsia, Ranshitila, Yamarvata Kanji. Country Chine turn it to the Tangarva. Chesani Rashi Matusia, Rashi Tiller, around to Tuba, turn me to Tuba Chishagiari is. Deep Messier, Rashi to Yamari, turn me to Tuba Castle. Turn me to Tuba Yamari, around to Tuba Yamarva, Mebice, Messiati, Rashi Messiati, Messi Yamari. Rashi Messi to Tamba Koyachi Tuba. मैं मतलब चेक नहीं मैं सीट हुआ ठीक है कुछ यार बा नदी ऐसा नहीं चिता नंबर शेयर है यार गंगा यार जी कर सुबह आई देवती क्यों तेरे चुन रही क्यों यार Deputy Culatene joins and Cutan to the vicinity Marva. Deputy Tobe Patatum. Judia Tobe Patatum. Did it, Santa Di. What did it?
So it is definitely not a nihilistic approach, and so as the term we use is inherently exists. Nothing exists inherently. So therefore, when we say nothing exists inherently, if you listen to it carefully, you do hear that things do exist. Things do not exist inherently. So therefore, it does exist. So their existence is there. That natural, uncontaminated existence, so to speak, is there. And within that sphere of existence, then one commits to negative actions and positive actions, and one generates compassion for people, other beings, and so on and so forth. All these are existing. So when we say inherent existence, we are talking about things not depending upon anything else, any other factor. And since things do, even the effect, the result is caused by the result is been brought forth by the cause, and the cause is also brought forth by other causes. And not just that, both the cause and the effect are merely imputed by the thought that something is there. It is so. So because of that, everything is dependent upon another factor, either a mental factor to recognize or validate it as such, or in the case of causes, in the case of effects or results, it has to rely or depend upon another cause to come into existence. So therefore, therefore, merely when we say the word no inherent existence, in other words, we are saying we do accept the fact that things do exist. Things do not exist inherently, but it does exist.
Lobsang some taking into the something never did. Some Yapuch Tanjus and some Yapuch to the Chile, Yanti Latter. Somebody in Bachini, somebody in Bati choose the Chile. Yanti negative, good latter. Good Samba Sambuta, Nibati, dog was in it, rushing to the Gyumed, Duyam Nevachi. Negative, you are number 2 to the Dobatilla, Lodilla, Lolly to a number 3. Low somebody to a number 3. Tanda you did and the Tanda you may have chat. In the do just on Rashing Messi at the Tiri. Yari Rashing, you could do under the courage every day. You gently then go to be a she and doing to be a just due to be inside. And she means
So another thing is let's take for example positive thought, a noble thought. A noble thought stays for a certain amount of time, then it goes away. And the negative thought also is the same case with negative thought. It is there, and after some time it goes away. So they are both transitory, and this actually shows that that nothing is inherent. If the negative thought is existing inherently, if it is the inherent nature of the thought to be negative, then the thought would be negative for good. So it will never be changing. It will never be transitioning to another forms of thought, either neutral or non-rituous or rituals. So the reason that we sometimes the meritorious or ritual thoughts arise, and sometimes it transforms into negative thought. So this all shows the very fact that the thoughts can change and transform shows that everything is transitory, and that nothing has an inherent existence, and that it is all the changes are brought forth by different factors, external as well as internal.
Thank you, Rinpoche. I got kind of lost when you were talking about the mind consciousness, the permanent depository in the merely I. I'm confused on how merely I is both permanent and neutral. I just
Both permanent and neutral?
How is that?
Okay.
Or maybe I'm misunderstanding.
So maybe permanent is not the right word. I'll come to that. So Dirishaki, the Mazam the anything because Paja tend to Paja George because of Joshi Paja Boshi is on la Joshi is on la. Or the chick the Karazana Paja Boshi and Romanes.
Yeah,
Romanes on
Malita Chidam Paja Boshi.
Romanes.
Nothing in that Kunshina Shinchi. Nothing can do can be Pajaniga Shachu Verba. Good. Number 70 good Verba.
No.
Kavi given no just given no to the Kire Pachati. He didn't make it a Pachati Shasimir. Kuni Pachashas, the Kuni Tungi Amarva. They could give all the chins and make it a Pachachas. Make it a Given no soon, make it no soon, Kire Pachashas at the Merva. That ended the Kire Kuni Lani, G, and the G's. Sabaiba, Dej, and Dej Sabina, the Pachai, Kushiti, Kiwarachi, Namsi Kiwachisha, he did to Shavirba. The Migiva Kunelandi, the landed number Mariba, G. Lech sign. Miguel Serba. In Namshiti, Sabinic Namshiti, Miguel Rachman, Neterba. These are the Miguel Pachashadi. The good then we shall say Maritico, Miguel number 70, Pan given you to Yarva. G. Call it Sundingi, Miguel lesson. Congratulations. Dinigas conduct the Sunday Chimana. Give by Jatisha again.
Mazam the Romatin.
Nothing, Casa Kuran, nothing is the Mazam.
저기 맞음 로마데 차 인다 맞음 로마데 인다데 맞음 때도 버자 조지 시간 건드렸어.
다지 로마팅 기팅 게임이 바자 가이샤는 지게. 다 샘담다기 공식해야 거야. 지금 바자 조스. 미식구는 로마팅을 봐. 이 게임이 바자 샤니 추리야.
Okay. So the merely I being the so the merely I is neutral, and so the depository of the either positive or negative karma, negative action, has to be neutral because if it is so the negative action, the imprints of a negative action cannot be planted on positive consciousness and vice versa. So therefore, that is the reason why the mind-only school actually has to sort of create the eighth consciousness. So the sixth consciousness does not suffice for them. So that's why they have to create. They have to sort of invent, so to speak, the eighth consciousness as the basis for the depository of all the imprints of all the actions. And the merely I is neutral because a person in general is neutral. So merely I is the a merely I is what constitutes a person in the Prasantika Madhyamika school. So since a person is neutral, so the merely I is also neutral. So therefore, merely I, merely me, is the basis of both positive and negative imprints.
I have two questions. The first one is, if I heard you correctly, you mentioned based on older Vedantic thought and older Buddhist schools that Shiva created the world. But in Vedantic mythology, I've always thought creation was on Brahmanic terms.
Yeah.
So why the discrepancy?
Right. Okay. 지난 힌두 기준으로 딜러라. 상대 지대치에서 뭐라. 나는 원주로 요원 안에 수준은 원주 지대치 보이면 싫어. 이 지금 안에 나서
장바빠는 이제 장배지에서요. 다시 실로 넘어야 봐. 이제 장바빠서 이제 잘 봐. 이게 장배지에서요. 원주비 원주가는 원주비 지에서요.
So I think maybe there's I think it's more of a discrepancy in the terms used for different schools of thought. So there's a school of thought known as Wungchuba, which is merely means that those who follow the Shiva, maybe Vaishnavite, I don't know, maybe it's not right. So according to that school of thought, so Rinpoche was referring to that school of thought. According to them, the Shiva is the one who created the world. And according to, so we also talk about the Tsangbawa, which is the Brahmanic followers. So according to those school of thought, Brahma is the creator of the world. So just like, I mean, this is just an example, like, the God being the creator of the world, this. Second question?
Yeah, the other question was, in Buddhist thought, we always talk about wholesome and unwholesome, good and bad.
Yeah.
But what is prominently missing is sinful or not sinful. Now, is that intentional? And if so, why?
The sinful?
The word sinful rarely comes up in Buddhist thought.
Okay. Okay. 딜라이 도스가 기벨레다 미게벨레스는 부츠부츠한 도스라 아니 디벨레다 가서다 디벨레다 가서 기벨레스 그래 이제 부츠한 도스 아니 디카리 나스 부츠한 마토스
이따 제티티 기벨레다 미게벨레스가 디바타 미게벨레스 디치바레 미게벨레다 디바이인베레 디바이인 구베르마 디벨레다 미게벨레스 디바스
I think it's more to do with the Tibetan language itself, because ritual and non-ritual. So there is a, it sits well. But when we say, well, we don't have to use the term sinful and non-sinful in Tibetan. I think it's not because of Buddhism. It's more because it more to do with the Tibetan language itself. So when we say sinful and unsinful in Tibetan, it doesn't sit kind of well. It's not very familiar with the Tibetan vocabulary. But rituals and non-rituals, Gewa and Migewa, so they are the true face, or the vice versa. So therefore it sits. So that's why, in order to explain when the Dharma is taught, this is how it's explained. But it's actually synonym for the one thing, same thing. Rituals and unsinful, and non-rituals and sinful are synonyms.
That's George University.
So last question.
So thank you, Rinpoche. So I have a question about karma. So in the long run, in the section on the distinctions among the varieties of karma, Lama Tsongkhapa makes a distinction between projecting and completing karma. So I understand projecting karma to be projecting to what kind of life form I take, and the completing karma has to do with the quality of my experiences in that life. So my question is, can any karma have the potential to be either projecting or completing, or are some karmas only projecting and some karmas only completing?
So, Lamrim Namola, Germany, Leg Namsham Son is an integral to Jelly from Shas. And the Lake Kadiji may not pendulum or Gura, the pendulum of the German Lake Gashi, pendulum the Bashina Lake Gashi, and need to check like Gashi never the pendulum of the Jelly, sometimes.
Pendically, I said, the Nami Gurun Chinetilla. Ruba never Chiamai. So, King Chesson Sinning is sort of the Junsunami you ever Nambune. Gurun of Chichia to the sea. Then do me. Lesson, the Jabu did on Queen Battle, Kawashing Shuyama, etc. I'm not sure. To me, it is to jiggle to sooner that pigeon to a deputy to a neighborhood. Painting led to the Kupang in December, less certainly to bring to Jabber, we should be bringing to Jayamar, till it came Matsuna, who could deputy Mabchai, Yambutosh Tanson. Yasili is seven game Matsun, Nani did prayer Yamari. That's it. To just painting less at Nami to bring the Jabazamri. Nami to ever never Chabayam. To me, the letter and Jabati to a never.
So that is
Any?
plus Tarsha. So this distinction between projecting karma and the two, the completion karma and the projecting karma, completing karma and projecting karma, is that projecting karma is merely potent to give out a result, in effect. So it does have the potential to bring forth a result, but this can actually be interfered by either confession and repentance and things like that, and it can be transformed into other forms of karma, or it can also it may not be able to bring forth the result if the 8th and the 9th factors of the 12 dependent things, merely craving, attachment and craving, initial desire and strong desire are not there, then the projecting karma cannot bring forth the result that it was meant to bring. Now, in the completion karma, the completing karma, it actually there is no interference between nothing comes in between the interference karma. Nothing comes in between the completing karma and the result. So when the completing karma is actually definite. So when a completing karma is formed, then the result that it's supposed to bring forth will be definite. So it cannot be changed. So we talk about accumulating karma and then purifying negative karma and all that. So we are talking about the projecting karmas here. For example, projecting karma is, for example, when we engage in a negative action and let's say we accumulate the negative karma to be reborn in the hell realm. So that itself is the projecting karma. So that karma can actually be nullified by doing confessions and other proper repentance practices, and that can be purified and nullified. But the projecting that is the projecting karma, and the completion or completing karma is actually none other than the 10th of the 12 dependent links, which is the mature karma. So that is so in the next moment, this karma is going to mature into whatever consequence or good things that you have accumulated earlier. So it is at the mature stage. So then the very next moment, the immediate aftermath of this negative or positive mature karma would be the result itself. So there is nothing in between the two.